going to take the North and never give it back.
So that's a good pick. You get the corner. I got to go bold, right? I got to go bold for this.
Yeah, she's got some nice.
Welcome back to the Unbearable Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Brad Barron. Make sure to like and subscribe out there on YouTube and rate the show 5 stars everywhere you get your podcast. Late live show today. Lots of stuff that was going on today for me. So got my graphics done, got my research done, and we have a lot to go through. So first things first, if you haven't already, join us on our quest to 5,000 subscribers. We're actually getting pretty darn close. So make sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. 90% of you that are watching right now are unsubscribed. So make sure to hit that subscribe button so you do not miss an episode. But today we're going to be breaking down all 3 new people that the Bears just signed so that we understand why did they sign them and also a little bit more about each and every one of them. But then also talk about the draft, how a lot of signings are now shaking up the draft. And of course, we have to talk about it because the wide receiver position that the Bears have not addressed, I want us to be able to talk about that because what happens in the draft? And also, what are some of the free agent moves that the Bears might actually be doing from a wide receiver position? So let's get this show on the road, shall we? And let's talk about the first person that they ended up signing, and that is Matt Pryor, the offensive tackle / guard that has played a little bit everywhere, right? So we have Matt Pryor from San Francisco last season, and then we have the Colts, and then we also have he was with Philly. But when you look previously, last year he had his highest PFF grade, but it was on 45 snaps, and it came with San Francisco. So with San Francisco, you kind of see, like, whenever an offensive lineman plays there, they all of a sudden look great. They all of a sudden look amazing. So it's something to just take with a grain of salt for sure, and only 42 snaps. But when you see him playing a lot more snaps, 576 in 2022 within Indianapolis, a 44.9 grade, not great, and a pass blocking efficiency of 95, which is not too good considering he was playing a little bit of right guard as well. As a tackle, that's not bad, but at the guard position, not the best. He is signed to a 1-year deal. We don't know the money yet, but the big question that I have is it seems like he's going to be more of a swing tackle. So then does he compete against a Larry Borom? Because it's always seemed like the Bears have been wanting to try and get rid of Larry Borom, and maybe Matt Pryor is that guy that kind of competes and then might push him out, but we'll just have to see. But if we look at his overall snap counts, 426 snaps at left tackle throughout his career, 814 at right guard, and 659 at right tackle. So majority playing at right guard, but he is able to play tackle, so he does have a lot of versatility, which we know is very, very important for the Chicago Bears on this line. So ultimately, I see him more as a swing tackle and more just like a replacement. You don't want him starting. He's not going to be starting for you. And he should just be more of that replacement level type of player. Now, he did play his most snaps in 2020 with Philly, and where he graded at 55, according to PFF. So yet again, not a great blocker by any stretch of the imagination, but someone that obviously on a 1-year deal that will just kind of compete with you-know-who, with Larry Borom, where Larry Borom really did struggle last year. I've always not hated Larry Borom, but last year, yeah, he didn't look good. I understood why they were like, you know what, maybe it's time to move on. His pass blocking efficiency rate on 411 snaps was a 93.5, which is not good, which is really, really not good. And if you remember, he filled in for Braxton Jones when Braxton Jones was placed on IR on early in the season last year. So when he came in, was not great and maybe it was just because it was the left tackle position and he has historically more so played that right tackle, but no matter what it was, not phenomenal for him. But that's where Matt Pryor really does kind of come in. He's more of a backup swing tackle out there. Also, Black Rain out there in the comments saying top 3 receivers will be gone. I have agreed with that, but I'll talk about a little bit later why I think that might be different. But, well, because I've always been on that train of, okay, they're not going to be there, but we shall discuss that a little bit later. But some other players that the Bears also ended up signing today. I got to pull up the pronunciation guy on this guy so I can hopefully say his name correct. And that is Amen Ogbongbemiga. I think Bimigu. This is what it says on the pronunciation guide, but we'll need an official pronunciation, and actually be able to listen to that. But we'll just call him Amen. Amen is a linebacker that the Bears signed to a 1-year, $2 million deal. And what I could tell you about him is he's a special teamer. That's all that you really need to know. The most snaps he played was back in 2021. He was of the Los Angeles Chargers, played there for the past 3 seasons, and really he is a special teamer at the core. And this just strikes me as a Dylan Cole replacement. It seems like he's going to be like how Dylan Cole was just that backup that we had. I think ultimately he's just in for Dylan Cole. That's all that I really think that this signing is. Can I tell you anything else really about him? Not really. The only thing I can show is I was like, I'll just grab his relative athletic score to see how athletic he is. Now his RAS score, 5.11. So not super athletic. He can bench a lot, but that's all that I can really tell you about Amen totally. Like he's just more so going to be a special teamer that they added in. And for the price of $2.1 million, he's most likely going to be on this team unless there's not a lot of guarantees on that. But it really does seem like he is going to be on the team, just more of a special teamer. But let's continue on. Like I said, we'll just kind of fly through some of these because there's not much to be said about that. The last signing that they did was Brett Rypien. And for those that remember Brett Rypien, he was with the Broncos and a little bit. And last year he was with the Rams and had 44 dropbacks, 38 attempts, and 18 completions. Not great. But that's why we added him as that Nathan Peterman replacement to be the person that just chills out on practice squad. And the reason why we're bringing him in, he was with Kerry Joseph and Shane Waldron last year in LA. He was with Kerry Joseph and Shane Waldron last November. So that's where they kind of have some sort of connection. But ultimately, Brett Rypien is just going to be the coach that's going to sit on the practice squad. That is where I see him as. I hope that he doesn't take Tyson Bagent's spot because Bagent is definitely better than Brett Rypien. This is just a practice squad person overall. That is simple as that. But this is another just 1-year deal overall, and that's why not too much to just talk about. Just another person in the room to help out whoever's at quarterback. Now, let's talk about the most interesting thing. Like those 3 signings, yet again, just kind of filling out the roster. It's really what Ryan Poles is doing. But let's talk about this whole draft shakeup. Because like Black Rain said, right? He's saying, hey, top 3 receivers will be gone. And I've also been saying that too. I've been a believer that I think that Rome Odunze is going to go pretty high. Why? Because he's tall. He's fast. He does all those things that the NFL loves. And that's why I think that Rome Odunze is going to be very up there on a lot of draft boards. And then when you put on the Malik Neighbors tape, dude's a freak. Dude's incredible. So why might we see a wide receiver fall to the Bears? Also, Chris, what is going on? Bear down. So with these wide receivers, why might we see a wide receiver drop to the Chicago Bears? And why do I actually believe this? Yet again, I was probably the biggest, they're not going to fall. But this is the reason why. And I tweeted this out so if you look at the draft order, right? If the draft order stays the same, the top 3 picks are most likely going to be quarterbacks. Drake May, Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams, right? It's going to fall somewhere in there. Jaden Daniels and Drake May are also most likely going to be picked before the Chicago Bears. Then you go to the Cardinals. Now, the Cardinals just released TJ Clemens, but then they also just signed Jonah Williams as another tackle. So now Marvin Harrison most likely going to go to the Cardinals, right? That's a lot of what everyone is saying. It should be that. Then you have the Chargers, where with the Chargers, Joe Alt, the tackle, seems amazing. It also seems like this might be a spot that maybe they trade down and to maybe the Vikings, and then the Vikings try to come up and get the quarterback that they want to pair with Justin Jefferson. But also for this, Joe Alt really does seem like the most likely solution. This could be a wide receiver, but they do really, really need a right tackle. Joe Alt, best tackle overall that's still available. Then you get to the Giants. This is where the Giants could go quarterback to develop behind Mac Jones, but also the most likely thing that what a lot of people are mocking is Malik Neighbors. And then also you look at this too. They need defensive backs. They need multiple other things. But then this is where it gets interesting. And this is the big news that I wanted to talk about. Because then you get to the Titans and then you get to the Falcons. And to me, this is why I think that the, Olufashanu and Dallas Turner are players that might be there and might then go in front of the Bears. Because what the Titans just did, this is what shocked everyone. When they signed Calvin Ridley. And Calvin Ridley, that deal was outrageous what he got. And that's why a lot of people now are saying, well, if they have a wide receiver, they need offensive line help. And this is a very, very good offensive line draft. They can add an offensive lineman or they can go with Quinyon Mitchell. They need secondary players, so they might go secondary. They might go offensive line. And because if the Titans don't go wide receiver because they just added a wide receiver, now this looks good for the Bears. And then that's where the Bears, Rome Odunze or Malik Neighbors, then drops down to the Chicago Bears. So that is something that, to me, I'm like, oh my God, this might just happen. Because you can play back some of our episodes. I was going, I don't think that there's going to be a wide receiver there. I don't think there's going to be a wide receiver there. And now I'm going, holy crap, the Titans just did one of the, first off, Calvin Ridley, that deal was just insane. But since they landed him and then the Falcons end up landing Darnell Mooney, I think that ultimately you look at this, it's going to be interesting, right? I think that's where a wide receiver is most like it probably will be there for us at 9. But yet again, I don't want to put all of our eggs into a wide receiver being there, but it looks more and more likely. But let me know what you all think down below in the comments. Ron, what is going on? Also, Greg, see how bad that Bears needs are on that site. They say we need a cornerback. Yeah. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. Bears need, I saw that on a handful of draft sites have the Bears needing a cornerback. I was on wherever the consensus big board is, they have a consensus mock draft. And I was looking at that and they're like, you need a pick. They do the suggested pickups. And one of them was a corner. I'm like, have you seen the Bears? They are literally set at the cornerback position. But for some reason, I guess they think that the Bears need to draft a cornerback high. Also, Broski, what is good, my friend? It's weird. It's weird going on this late. It's 9:23. It's almost my bedtime, right? It's a little crazy. But yeah, let's see. And Broski's saying too, Bears need to leave this draft with MHJ or Neighbors. I'll take Brian Thomas is interesting for sure, but that's where I really hope. And I said this yesterday when we were live. I still live by this, as weird as this sounds, because to me, Malik Neighbors is easily the number 2 receiver. And it's because I think Odunze is a good player, but Neighbors is just that good. And for those that are new to the show, I've said this before, Marvin Harrison is the number 1 wide receiver in practically every draft. Then you have Malik Neighbors is number 1 in most drafts. And then Rome Odunze is number 1 in some drafts, right? It just depends on who's there. Malik Neighbors is just that freaking good. That's what I'm so excited for. So I really hope that the Giants go, we need a big body wide receiver. We got to go Rome Odunze. Because also, I don't know if anyone else saw this with the combine, but Caleb Williams and Malik Neighbors, and I know I didn't want to say any of the quarterbacks' names, but Caleb Williams and Malik Neighbors at the combine were hanging out a whole bunch. They looked to be best friends. There were so many pictures that when Caleb was on the sidelines, Malik was right next to him talking. So if we could get those guys, that'd be fun. That'd be way too much fun for sure. But let me see what else is going out there. Broski saying Bears need the offensive skill position players with these picks. They're expensive. I think that's exactly what we're seeing here. You have to grow some of these. You have to grow your own wide receivers. You have to draft them. And the best part about wide receivers too is I really should just get this report and show it to all of you, but I did a report on just where Pro Bowlers come from, like what rounds, what's the highest percentage. And wide receivers literally are the most spread out because it's not as much in the rounds one because it's about, can you run routes? Can you get open? And a lot of times people forget about those. And there's so many wide receivers out there that, yeah, you can get wide receivers late and add them in. John, what's good, my friend? Eagles looking to trade Devonta Smith. Would you trade number 9 an Eagles second-round pick for him? Ooh, draft Marvin Harrison 1, more Smith, Harrison Jr. Ooh, that would be a pretty awesome wide receiver core with Devonta Smith. I wouldn't go for him though. I don't know how many years he has left in his deal. That would be the other big thing. Like, when is he going to get a big payday? I like the idea of just kind of growing our own receivers, like kind of bringing some in, drafting some, because I just finished up watching, I don't know how many wide receivers, but I think the guy out of Tulane, I'm blanking on his name. Look up the Tulane wide receiver. He's like someone that you can get in like the 7th, and he is fast. He's quick. To me, I wouldn't necessarily trade for some wide receivers just to have that out there. Ron saying Fields might be joining Mooney. We'll have to see. And Broski's on the East Coast. Yeah, 10:23 for sure. And then John's on the West Coast. I didn't know that. 7:23. Moved to LA in 2019. Yeah, so let's see what else is out there. Let's keep this show on the road, shall we, though? And let's talk about the none other than the big news that came down today, which was Mike Williams. Now, yesterday on the show, we talked about it, like, jokingly. I was talking about how could the Bears just spend money if they wanted to spend money? And it was like, the Chargers, they have all these players that they just need to get rid of, and they needed to get rid of them before the 3:00 deadline because the cap is in fact real, and the Chargers GM does not know how to manage the cap. It's like a kid when they have the salary cap on in Madden. They don't, like, I didn't know how to use it. I cut everybody, and then I had a million things in cap penalties, and that's how I figured out what cap penalties were as a young child. So Mike Williams, though, just got released. He's 29 years old. He's going to be 30 during the season. If you look historically, he's always graded around the 70s for PFF, and really all you got to know about him as a wide receiver, 6'4", 218. Now, the reason why this is important, the wide receiver coach last year for the Chargers was the Bears wide receivers coach now. So my question for all of you is, would we want Mike Williams? Just to throw that out there. I'm already starting to see no because of the injuries, and that is the big thing. Mike Williams has been injury prone, like what Jay Sanders has been saying. Also, what's good, Jay Sanders? But then Broski's saying this too. He's going to be 30 years old coming off of an ACL. That's going to be the big question mark, because also he had the injury designation. Now, injury designations, I had to look into this a little bit. I'm not a legal person, and I'm not going to be going through all the ins and outs, but I read just a little bit on it. And the injury designation, when someone is released or cut, basically protects the player so that they're able to then they can get more financial compensation from the NFL if they end up not playing throughout the entire year. So it's a little bit scary, but it's really just he's coming off of this injury. He's 30 years old, and that's why he was the one that ended up being cut. And I think, too, if anyone knows about Mike Williams, it's the Bears wide receivers coach. So to me, we have the insight. And this is just like with A.J. Epinesa. And now A.J. Epinesa ultimately stayed with the Bills, but I said it with this, where if we have the coaches that know the players the best, if we are not interested in Mike Williams, that's awesome, because our guy knows Mike Williams. So to me, if we don't go in on him, I'm fine with it. But if we do, then we know something. We know that he's good, and I'm going to be fine with it as well. But he's more of that big body wide receiver that really will give a different dynamic to the Bears. But yet again, the biggest question mark to me is those injuries. When he has been targeted over the past 4 seasons, every quarterback has had over a 100 QB rating when targeting him. But like we said, it's the injury proneness. Now, the big question too is, I don't know what it is with the Chargers, but everyone in the Chargers gets injured. It's just kind of what the Chargers do. So maybe we just got to get him out of there. But if you're going to add him, I think it's ultimately just going to be a 1-year deal. I don't think it's going to be a 2-year deal or anything like that. I think it's a 1-year, prove that you're healthy, something along those lines. So it's going to be interesting just to see who's going to be contacting Mike Williams, who's going to be bringing them in. And if the Bears don't show up at all, I'm not going to be concerned at all. But he's definitely someone to at least look out for because of the connections to the Bears wide receivers coach. So definitely someone to keep an eye out for. So let's talk a little bit about the best. So because of this, we talked about Williams. Let's continue to just kind of wrap up with just some of the best players available, and then we can just call it a day. Now, we've been talking about these best player availables for quite some time. So I feel like we have the list down, but I wanted to at least just shorten it up. So it's not our typical list that we've been going through. I just kind of shortened it up for sure so that we just have top 6. We're just doing top 6. So top 6 wide receivers available right now: Mike Williams, Hollywood Brown still available. Josh Reynolds is still someone to look out for because of the connections to the Bears coaching staff, to Shane Waldron. So definitely someone to look out for there. Or even like a Paris Campbell. He's not on my list, but someone to at least just take a look for. Doesn't have the connection to Shane Waldron, but just a potential guy that they might want to bring in. Hunter Renfrow was released as well. The slot receiver that was kind of like he's like the slot version of Darnell Mooney, where he had like a year of being awesome and then all of a sudden just kind of fell off. But Hunter Renfrow, someone to look at as a slot player. Then Curtis Samuel, Tyler Boyd. You already know the names that are out there too. So people to be on the lookout for. But then also, let's go over to the top centers available. Nothing much has really changed there. Not really any noteworthy centers got signed. I still feel like they might try to just draft someone. But if they were going to sign someone, I don't think it's going to be anytime soon. I think it's going to be a lot later. But what we have out here, we have Connor Williams, we have Coleman Shelton, we have Evan Brown, we have Nick Gates, Brian Allen, and Mason Cole. Mason Cole is someone that has been a starter, but he's not been a good starter. Not a Lucas Patrick type of starter, a little step up than that. But when you look at who's left, it's people that I wouldn't necessarily get too excited over. The only 2 people I'd be excited over, Connor Williams, because of the potential, right? He might turn into something, but you're banking on that knee injury being good, being okay. But yet again, we don't want to be in the business of adding a bunch of people with bad knees. But then also Brian Allen is someone that I would like to at least just see. He's been banged up, but as a Bears fan, I want to bring in more Bears fans. They understand the hate. And also Brian Allen has been a good center in this league. He just had an injury-plagued season last year. Want to make sure he checks through some of the medicals and make sure things are good today. But also, Greg's saying, didn't another center get released today better than Connor? I don't know. I haven't seen much with that. So yeah, if anyone gets that name, let me know down in the chat for sure. Also, just from the wide receiver perspective, I'm seeing, literally the only people that I'm considering signing, Samuels and Boyd. Yeah, Samuels and Boyd, I think looking through this, that's going to be the big ones. And I think ultimately, because I think for my thumbnail, it was about when are the Bears going to sign a wide receiver? I think that what Ryan Poles is doing is, we've seen this. He has a certain number that he wants to pay. And wide receivers right now are getting paid this. And for those that are listening to it and not seeing it, one hand's up, one hand's down. Wide receivers are getting paid this. Poles probably wants to pay this. I think that's where you're going to start to see polls then slowly starting to come in and start adding some of these wide receivers and just some random like little veterans, because I think you just really need one veteran, then maybe you can draft another, and then I think you should be set there. That's kind of my feeling. Also, Mark, thank you so much for the kind words. He said, it's a great channel. You're doing a fantastic job. Definitely appreciate that. Thank you so much. And then also, too, John saying, I'd rather spend on O-line than wide receiver. Yeah, wide receivers, I just want to get a handful. And then Broski saying, too, Bears need to pick up a second-round pick and draft Zach Frazier. Zach Frazier, you can tell. Like, I did the film study on him, the center out of West Virginia, for those that don't know. And he's projected to go in the second round. This dude, you can tell he wrestles. You can tell he's in wrestling. The way he gets down in his stance, like, it's a thing of beauty. He's just very low to the ground. Everything that he does, you're like, that dude wrestles. That guy just gets, the way he gets into his stance, the way that he moves his feet and shuffles, just an absolute grappler at the center position. Definitely really, really like him out there. But yeah, the second round picks, I agree. And that's where, too, if there is a wide receiver that falls to that number 9 pick, the Bears might just want to pick him up, right? And not trade back. That will be a little interesting tidbit that ends up happening, because you want a wide receiver. Roman Dunze seems like he's desperate to be a Chicago Bear, which every time you hear him talk about him, he's like super, super excited about that. So that's something maybe, right? I don't know. The trade down and getting a second, though, I really do like some of these second round players. That's kind of my big thing. But also, Munoz, what is going on, my friends? Saying Samuels and Williams at the wide receiver position. So for sure. And Williams from Chargers. Let's see. Brad has the radio voice. Yeah, thank you. James saying this is a great channel to watch. Appreciate the kind words out there, guys. Definitely do. And then yeah, so let's keep on moving, and let's keep on going through the defense. And the defense, man, I didn't even want to change who I have on my little thumbnail for this. I kept Danielle Hunter out there because these people are the D linemen are just coming off the board, and this was hard to kind of throw together. And I gotta say this, DJ Wanham, to me, I hate saying this because I'm not a DJ Wanham fan. DJ Wanham is going to be a Bear. And so I really do feel like he's going to go to Chicago. Bears are going to talk to him, and he's going to be a Bear in the next couple days. I think it's on Friday that he's visiting with the Bears. I just hope if they sign him, it's for a cheap deal. And actually today I was talking to my father-in-law, who's a Vikings fan, and I'm like, did you hear that the Bears are getting might get Wanham? What do you think of that? And he goes, oh, that'd be great. That'd be great. You guys can have Wanham. And obviously joking about it, because he's like, yeah, Wanham did nothing. He's like, Wanham just kind of does nothing out there. So I don't really want him. If we can get him for a halfway decent price, I don't mind it, because then maybe you can draft someone, develop someone. He is an upgrade over Dominique Robinson. So there is that. But if you look at the other edges that are available, Calais Campbell, Jadeveon Clowney might get picked up by the Panthers pretty soon. Chase Young was talking to some other people. But two other people that we have not talked about, Derek Barnett at $5 million over 1 year is available, and Carl Lawson, 1 year, 3.15. Now, it seems like everyone that we talk about, there's some sort of injury concern. Carl Lawson has been banged up. He had that one really bad knee injury after he got his gigantic deal, and ultimately has not looked the same. More of a pass rusher, but same thing with Derek Barnett. Two players that I personally like more than a DJ Wanham, that you can get at a cheaper, most likely a cheaper deal, and just kind of a 1 year deal to kind of fill in the gap. I'd rather have Barnett and Lawson over Wanham. So that's just my take on it. But you know, what do I know? I'm just some guy with the microphone. But ultimately, Derek Barnett and Carl Lawson are both better players than DJ Wanham, in my opinion. So, but yeah, Ron does not want Wanham. I agree. Like, I'm just bracing myself. Like, if the Bears end up signing Wanham, I don't know what to do for that episode. I might just make it like, I won't have anything good to say. I'll grab every every positive stat that I can twist. Every stat you could probably twist positively. I'll be like, he's a try hard guy, even though that he's never recorded a positive wins above replacement. But yeah, Munoz saying, isn't Wanham basically Walker? Yeah, he's like an off-brand Walker, basically, where he's the thing that I will say. This is actually a good thing. He's pretty good against the run. I will say that he's pretty good against the run. If you're going to do rotations, I'd rather just have someone that's has more of that pass rush upside, right? That's just my overall feeling. Also, Triple R, Sports Chicago style, saying Isaiah Hodgins. That's another guy. Isaiah Hodgins got released from the Giants. Definitely worth a look. He's one of those people that has a bunch of potential to him that I know wide receivers coaches are going to absolutely love. They'll definitely fall in love with that. So, yeah, but I agree with James. Draft is stacked with wide receivers. Lots of those out there. I can't wait to just do a draft show real quick to just kind of go through some of my big boards. I'm closing out my big boards so that I have everybody. I think I just have to go through some tackles and guards and a couple more defensive tackles, and then I'm pretty much set, which is a good feeling. Dobbsy, what's up? He said, sign me up for a prove-it deal for Chase Young and then draft an edge next year, supposedly a great edge class. I haven't done too much looking into the next year, but I remember hearing about a couple edges, though, for sure. So, yeah, so we shall see. Frank Ragnow got cut, or did he get restructured? Yeah, I'll look that up real quick. I don't see anything about Frank Ragnow getting cut. If he did, that'd be crazy because he's the best center in the league. But I don't know. I just did a quick little search. I couldn't find anything with that. But yeah, let's see. And also, actually, perfect. Right on cue. Literally right on cue. Don Burr, thank you for coming in. Don Burr, everyone's favorite Lions fan. Detroit versus everybody. Frank Ragnow, best center in the NFL. He wishing Frank got cut. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that, Don. You may now leave. Nah, just kidding. But let's go over to the defensive tackles because we got to talk about this. So defensive tackles out there. Tahir Tart, projected 3 years, $7 million average. DJ Reader still out there. Yet again, DJ Reader staying out there a little bit later. Maybe that price comes down because he's projected $15 million. Maybe that does start ticking down a little bit, but still a very good defensive tackle. Sebastian Joseph, then that's when everything just falls off. I mentioned it before. Quentin Jefferson is still my favorite that I would like the Bears to get more of that just pure pass rush upside for only $3.5 million. Very good deal there. But unfortunately, when you look at everyone else, you're looking at Poona Ford, you're looking at Sebastian Joseph Day, Adam Butler. I wish that there was better ones on the market. Those are literally the best ones on the market. There's really not a lot of defensive tackles out there, ladies and gentlemen. So hopefully the Bears add one of these players in because, without Justin Jones, I wasn't a huge Justin Jones fan, but I still feel like you need some form of another veteran to just kind of fill out there and just be added there. So we shall see. Don Burr saying DJ Reader in Detroit on a visit tomorrow. I did not know it. I did not know that, actually. So, Don, thank you. Thank you for coming in there, dropping the Lions logic on us. Thank you so much. Also, James saying, I really like Thomas. Yeah, I agree. Brian Thomas, the question, I think that I remember watching him and going like, oh my God, because people I felt chunked Brian Thomas and the wide receiver, Troy Franklin Jr. out of Oregon together so much because they're both deep ball threats. But when you look at them side by side, I was like, Brian Thomas Jr. is a first-round wide receiver. Franklin Jr. was not a big wide receiver that I enjoyed watching too much, just purely seemed like a deep threat to me. So to me, ultimately, Brian Thomas, very interesting. The only thing that I do have a question about is just the full route tree. That to me with Thomas, I would like to see a little bit more of, but the dude is he's a player. He's definitely a big time player. So I like him, and he might be one of those guys where we go, how did he drop? Right? Because he's got the size, he's got the speed, plays well. So I really like him for sure. Oh, no, and no worries, Greg. No worries at all. It's all good, my friend. But then, yeah, let's see what Dobbsy has to say. At D tackle, we need a rotation big body to replace Justin Jones and tag out Billings. Let the kids rotate at 3 technique. That's where, too, low key, right? We have a long time until the NFL draft. But someone to look out for, Byron Murphy out of Texas. I've said it before. The Bears might fall in love with him because keep in mind, Darnell Wright was not supposed to be going in the first round. Around this time, Darnell Wright was probably going like in the 30s or so. And then he just started rocketing up draft boards. And then all of a sudden, he goes number 10 to the Chicago Bears. And he started getting more and more and more projections at that number 10 spot, number 9, number 10 spot for the Bears. And that's where Murphy has been rocketing up boards. And now he's the consensus defensive tackle number 1. And there's also that video, the 1920 football drive with the Bears and them saying, if that guy's available, we're getting him. I forgot the exact quote, but they're like, if that guy's available, we're getting him. It might have been Murphy because when you saw Murphy, like yet again, it's just the combine, but when you see Murphy running with the other defensive tackles, that guy's different. That guy's built different. That guy's a thick boy, but he can move, he can run, he's got it all. So we'll have to see ultimately what they end up doing. But thank you so much. I said that this was going to be a quick show. I mean, it's less than 40 minutes, but still 36 minutes. Thank you all so much for joining late. This is the latest that I think I've ever gone at 9:46 my time. But thank you all so much. Make sure to like, make sure to drop the subscribe. We are on the quest for 5,000 subscribers. That is such a cool thing to say. Thank you all so much for all the support, everything. I love you all. And with that, Unbearable Sports Podcast, we are out.
Yeah, she's got some nice long hair and